GC News, Bema Obidia Akwaba, Hadie, latest and hot news in Kwanamide, Bramo. Anunti, so we subscribe, or Modia say, over subscribe to the channel. Yoga say, over click a subscribe party. Now, what barely notification, where I video be uploaded when the first person on Sabeka a video. I feel we are now like video give us a thumbs up, nothing. Share my offer for us now when you be here and I will and someone so Wogan Muano. I feel Yabura and someone Abeto Yapuso. A KSM Kweku Sintin Misa or the Samaka a year. Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia the press and some also a year Belamundi and which betray in some good Sapa Bawumia Nitra Nipa year 8 in 2020 election at Jima South. A place for Akoto and Nipa 8 film actually 1 in 1. Bawumia for the past 4 years, Bawumia and making comment. There no unsem Ekupio or Hodoma to say Bawumia to Papa so I think to say Anu say Wadema and then a KSM reactor what to be Eddie Amaneno. Sasso na peace council. What is a peace council for no to holding the Akoto United the moon here. A good election, the for them when you are more peace car. I feel I'm more say about for a sign a peace party in his hand on the battle and the KSM to be a mount. What you want to do, say 1 year, what you do, say 1 year, what the beginning after that. KSM and some to do an hour 80 na mean% mechanism. Yamurana catching 80 and Sema what they are to that.
Fellow respected members of the Ghana Peace Council, and I really do mean that you are all respected members of the Ghana Peace Council. But I'm putting you in the line of fire today because, we only hear of you just when it's a few months to the election. And so today I have a few things to tell you, my dear Peace Council. Number one,
you are watching Juicy News
you
on
are
YouTube.
Not a proactive
Hot news all time.
Peace Council at all. When you're proactive, that's the first thing I want to tell you. The next thing I want to tell you is that you only come alive when it's a few months to the election. That's when we hear, hey, say your Peace Council. That's when it's a few months to the election. That's the only time you come alive. As you came alive a few months ago and said you need $1 billion. All this time, why you doing? And then a few months election, you come and you need $1 million or whatever you need it for. So the third thing I want to say is that I think it's quite unfortunate, but you cuddle up with the powers that be. Whichever government is in power that hires you as the Peace Council, you cuddle up to them. Say NPP, say NDC, say CPP, whichever government is in power that hires you to run the Peace Council, you cuddle up to them. You know why? You are afraid to speak truth to power. And that's the saddest thing for all you Peace Council members. As much as I respect you, you are afraid to speak truth to power. All you know how to do is to cuddle with whichever government has placed you in power. And folks, this nonsense must stop. You have to be bold to speak truth to power, no matter who has employed you. Okay? Now, why am I saying this, folks? Why am I saying this? We're getting close to the election. What pains me is that every 4 years as we get close to the election, then all of a sudden we hear that we have a peace council, then there are all these peace issues. You watch very, very soon, every church in Ghana will be having a first Saturday and prayer night. Every church in Ghana will be praying for peace. Everybody will be talking peace, 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 peace. And that's where you find yourself too. Every 4 hours, we talk about peace. Now, what am I talking about? I'm going to take a short break and we'll listen to Belamundi when they had the recent press conference with the Vice President, His Excellency Bawumia. And Belamundi asked a very significant question. And I want us to take a look at this clip. Let us listen to the question she asked, then I'll come back before we listen to the answer Bawumia gave. So let us listen to Belamundi's question.
Fact-checked and confirmed that 8 people in the 2020 general elections. We haven't heard the president make a statement on it, of justice or anything for that matter. I'm not sure I've heard you make any statement on it as well. And I've spoken to a lot of analysts who say that if you had addressed this very early on in your campaign, maybe you'd have had a greater chance than you might have now. If you become, and that's a question I've had. I just want to find out from you what you make of this.
Brilliant question, Belamundi. Congratulations. That was a fantastic question. That 8 people have been killed during the elections. Nobody should die in elections, so I'll be telling you more about it. Nobody deserves to die in any election. It's only in Africa where election becomes war. Election will be war. This whole idea of treating election like a war is nonsense. That must stop. Election will be war. We have all these parties who have given their manifestos and whatever.
Hot news all time.
As citizens, just go and vote for the one we like. You don't have to die. It's simple. I'll come back to that. So Belamundi was talking about how we lost 8 lives during the election, and how surprisingly the president hasn't made a comment, and pointed out that the vice hasn't made a comment, and was asking, so is there any time that we expect any commentary of these innocent lives that were killed? Before we even get to that, when George Floyd died in the US, we had a funeral and a Thanksgiving service for him here in Ghana, because the US blacks were saying Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. So while they were mourning George Floyd, even the president had a tweet about the death of George Floyd. We did a funeral for him here in Ghana. That's okay. But I'm saying, if as a nation we can get together and mourn George Floyd, but we don't have a comment on the death of 8 of our citizens, very tragic. Tragic indeed, eh? So Bella, thank you for that question. Now let's go to the answer that the VP gave. Listen to this.
The question, the 8 people died in the 2020 election, and the president, or me, we have not commented on it. I'm not quite sure whether the president has commented or not. But any time we lose a life in any circumstance, it doesn't have to be an election. I think it's really a very sad event when you talk about loss of life for anybody, and so I think that it's very, very a sad occurrence if for people who died during the election, maybe out of conflict or something. So it is something that I hope the authorities, law enforcement authorities, have dealt with or are dealing with. I'm not quite familiar with the full current status of that particular situation, but the people who are responsible should be brought to book to deal with this issue.
How sad. I don't think the president has made him before. If he had done that here, then I think that the loss of life under any situation is very tragic. Yes, the loss of life under any situation is very tragic. Not 1 life, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, 8. When one George Floyd died, Ghana was mourning. 8 of our citizens. And folks, Patrick, before I go on, we all have to identify something. There are things that are called partisan issues, and there are things that are called national issues. Somewhat else here. For example, the death of 8 citizens. It's not a partisan issue. If the 8 people who died and they are NPP and so what, it's still a national issue. If it's 8 people who died and they are NDC and so what, it is a national issue. If they are whatever party or whatever, 8 Ghanaians who die, folks, trust me, it is a national issue. So we don't treat it as like a partisan thing. Yeah, an idea can come from a party, But once the idea is set in motion, it becomes a national issue. More for example, free SHS, that is identified as one of the visions and the dreams of Nana Addo Dankwa. Yeah, maybe it was a partisan idea and he came out and he says, let's do it and do it now. And yeah. So now, folks, we have to start thinking and understanding that free SHS is no longer an NPP issue. Maybe it originated as that the immediate implementation. Maybe it started as an NPP issue, but between me and you, we know today that free SHS now is a national issue. And we have to think about it nationally. So having said that, we have to distinguish between partisan issues and national issues. And what Belamundi brought up was that this very important national issue of losing 8 people, and nothing has come from the top. The president haven't said a word, the VP hasn't said a word, we're all quiet. What's up with that? And Belamundi bisa no. Was it, yo man, what's up with the death of the 8 citizens of Ghana? The VP was like, well, maybe the president has said something, but he's not aware, and maybe some action. He is not aware? 4 years ago? All over the newspaper, all over the news, everywhere, he is not aware? My friend, that is so inexcusable. That is such a lame excuse. Say, when you're aware, and you're hoping that now whoever is in charge should. No. Totally unacceptable. Now that I've said that, let me go back to my beef with the Ghana Peace Council. This, for example, happened when? 4 years ago. Between the time it happened and now, what has the Peace Council done? If you are not cuddling up to the government, and always Americans will say, kissing the ass of government, and if you are free to speak truth to power, wouldn't you have, in the last 4 years, been talking about this issue? What can we do about it as a nation? What went wrong? What should be done? So President Tanya, now Vice President Tanya, Peace Council,
You are watching Juicy News on YouTube.
Peace Council,
Hot news all
let me
time.
just give you a few of the duties that you have signed up for. One is to promote and facilitate a peaceful resolution of conflict in Ghana. What do you want to know? You're supposed to promote and facilitate peaceful resolutions in Ghana. That's one of your terms of reference. And the next one, Peace Council, you're supposed to provide a platform for dialogue and reconciliation. And I'm quoting the third one. It's not your last, but I'm just quoting the big 3. Your duty is to offer advice to government on the issues of conflict and peaceful resolution. These are your terms of reference as stipulated by the Constitution that brought you into power. So these are just 3 of them. There are quite a few of them. So my question is, between the last 4 years, when 8 people were killed, when did it occur to you that all these things that I'm talking about now, were necessary things to have been done by you over the last 4 years? Quiet! It's not only that these people were murdered. I remember there was a time that during the election, armed forces actually entered the Parliament of Ghana. That is completely unconstitutional for the armed forces to enter the Parliament of Ghana under a democratic regime. Completely unconstitutional. Armed forces, so maybe you have all forgotten, they entered into Ghana's Parliament. 4 years has the Peace Council brought this thing up ever? You see, the point I'm trying to make is that the Peace Council is not proactive. Maybe not just this Peace Council, but all Peace Councils set up by every government. Your duty is to kiss the ass of the government, and you are not proactive, you don't speak truth to power. So this is just an example I'm giving to this Peace Council. armed forces entered the Parliament of Ghana unconstitutionally, illegally. Peace Council, was that even an issue? All you have to wait is for 4 years, and when the election is coming, they won't hear $1 million to talk about flashpoints. Where is the proactivity of the Peace Council? You know, this is just by the way, though. This is just by the way. Trust me, if it was the NDC in power then, and the Ghana Armed Forces had entered Parliament just the way they did, I swear to God, the NPP would have given you guys so much wahala. Honestly, do you think the NPP would have sat down quietly for armed forces to invade the Parliament? If it was the NDC in power, you think the armed forces would have entered and invaded and nobody would have said anything? And come back home. Okay? So anyway, that's neither here nor there. But all I'm saying is this, folks. It's been 4 years, Peace Council, that illegally the armed forces entered into Ghana Parliament and didn't work out for nothing, zilch. It's not an issue. It's been 4 years that 8 people were killed. What have you said about that? Nothing, zilch. And the last thing I want to mention, the Ayasu West Wugon election, where there too, military people came there, macho men came there to disrupt things and slapped an MP and all of that. 4 years ago, what has happened? Ding. Charlie, this is, I'm putting you in the line of fire, but I'm advising you, not just you, but any subsequent Peace Council that is going to come after this one, stop cuddling up to government. The government doesn't put you there, so you cuddle up to them, and in the expression, kiss their ass and be afraid to speak truth to power. You're supposed to advise government. You're supposed to help in conflict resolution. You're supposed to be proactive, not this reactive laziness that we see. And then 4 years by, I'm going to say, you have $1 million because you have to fight flashpoints. Meanwhile, the last time I talked about the Peace Council, I showed how blatantly some parliamentarians were on platform talking about we will not hand over power today, we won't hand over power tomorrow. And I don't want to repeat showing that, because when I do that, I'm glorifying their stupidity. And those of you who didn't see it, you can go and check the last edition when I talked about the Peace Council. But there are politicians who are on platforms saying we'll hand over today, we'll hand over to NPP, the NDC or whatever. It is not necessary, my friend. Election no be war. Election is supposed to be peaceful. And what can help ensure a very peaceful election is a very proactive Peace Council that will be up and doing. Not a Peace Council that will sit down for 4 years and after 4 years, no but KBB say here $1 million there acquire flashpoints. I am serious here. I am very serious here. So now we are at a stalemate. I said, says, I'm not signing any peace pact, because every time we sign a peace pact, we realize that soldiers can come and shoot and go, and that's the end of it. So we won't sign any peace pact. And if you are not in favor of that, you can say, go and sign and stop that, And you're in favor of that, you say, but you have a point. But let me tell you something finally that really has impressed me so far. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of Kumasi, please, I don't usually do the bachelor. Let me stand up 1 second. And the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Kumasi, I salute. I am saluting them because they see this as a national crisis, not a partisan issue. Because critics can say, why? This is an NDC, people say they won't sign. Why is the Catholic Bishop? No. this is not an ND issue, this is a national issue. 8 people have been killed. Owusu, soldiers violated the space, parliament soldiers violated the space. This is not a partisan issue. It's a national issue. And I'm very, 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 very glad that the Bishops' Conference stood up and at least made a very, very, very important statement. What they said is this, that we are all looking for a lasting peace. We are looking for conflict resolution. But what the president of the Bishops' Conference has emphasized is this. He emphasized the necessity of justice before a peaceful resolution. He emphasized the necessity of justice before a peaceful resolution. Have you heard that reggae song? Everyone is crying out for peace, but no one is crying out for justice. The president of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Kumasi, name is Bishop Samuel Kwesi Gyamfi, has emphasized the same thing. If you want peace, there must be justice. So he is actually advising all the stakeholders to sit down and give hearing and pay attention to what Asiedu Nketia is saying. It is not a partisan issue. This is a national crisis. Folks, the fact is we are just 3 months away from the election. 3 months old. And you have heard all the terms of reference I was reading about the Ghana Peace Council and things you're supposed to do. So please, I beg you, get busy. Get busy within the next 3 months, 2 months, whatever, and act. After all, a speedy conflict resolution is part of your terms of reference. So the Catholic Conference is advising you to get all the stakeholders together and make sure there's a speedy resolution to this. 3 months, but folks, elections are, how do I put it? Elections will be war. It's very, very sad when I hear this about, yeah, we'll hand over today, we'll hand over tomorrow. Let me advise all, this is the last advice I'm giving, all those people who mount the platform and talk about we won't hand over today, we won't hand over tomorrow. Please, emfatamo. It makes you sound jittery. Honestly, when I hear that, I'm like, what are they afraid of? Or maybe there's something that you have to be afraid of. I don't know. Maybe I'm just asking the question. What are they afraid of that we won't hand over? Look, this is the thing. When we have the election, it's clean, free, and fair, and NPP wins again and breaks the 8. Hooray! You have done it. The election was clean, free, and fair. You have won, and you have won. End of discussion. If on the other hand, it is clean, free, and fair, and NDC or some other party wins, don't come and say, yeah, hand over net, yeah, hand over China. And for the youth, let me advise you, all those who preach like this, warmongering, won't hand over, and there'll be a bloodbath. Let me tell you this. They have comfortably have houses outside Ghana. They will fly all their children outside Ghana way before the election. By the time the election happens, their family won't be here. So you listen to them and let them tell you, oh, yeah, blah, 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 and go and die for nothing. Honestly, it is not worth it. We want a peaceful election. I always say this, Charlie, at this point, I'm almost 68. I don't know how many more years of life the good Lord will give me. But I'm telling you, every fiber, every second of life that He gives me, I will use that to make sure I join together with all the voices of reason, because there are plenty of voices of reason. We just heard from the Catholic bishops in Kumasi. One be a voice of reason. I'll join up with all the voices of reason that will make sure that we keep Ghana intact. Thank you. And no, Ghana will not burn. Okay? You know, people don't know this, but one day I'm going to talk to one guy who will tell you that we have experienced this very, very, very close to a bloodbath in Ghana during an election. Well, see, it was so close. It was whether or not the government in power or the president in power will concede or not concede. It was close to a bloodbath. But this guy stood up and said, no, this will not happen. So I talked to this guy and I said, but what gave you the strength to do this? Let me tell you the answer he gave me. He says, in the lifetime of every person in charge of national security, there comes a moment when he should decide whether he's going to go with Ghana as a country or go with his party. And he says he chose to go with Ghana as a country. On that note, Kandapa, you are national security couple. So let me appeal directly to you that use that same conscience. I pray that all this talk about hand over, all this talk is just talk. But if it so happens that it's not just talk, I pray that people like you on that day will decide Ghana over party.
You're waiting for waiting and some KSM, Kwaku City, Misa, Wobro, and Sendebe so to be money a peace council, Sasso, or to be money a Bawumia in Yeripa, and Boakye Agyarko, Techiman, a year 2020 election, and Bawumia Campaign, a year Pelamudi Kusa, Honsema, to say water and papa so. Because I just so and our Heno, Savina, subscriber, Obody and say over subscribe to the channel, Sansa Hadia, latest and hot news in Guanamidi, Bremo. I feel we are not like the video, give us a thumbs up. Nafi, share bar of personal when you be here, and summer episode, Ghana member. Also, betting at share what you have for and some way now, I will comment boxing in my next video.
Thanks for watching. Like and share the video. You can also drop your comment. Please don't forget to subscribe. Click on the bell to turn on the notification.